This meeting is being recorded.
Good afternoon. With me are 5 group members. We are presenting our coursework on the module International Procurement Management, and we are required to discuss the lessons learned from COVID-19 pandemic for firms that engage in global value chains with the strategies. Global value chain refers to the flow of raw materials, goods, information, knowledge, finance, and technology that involve activities like production and design and distribution, which go to the final customer from multiple firms across countries to bring the product or service from its conception to its end use and beyond. COVID-19 is a global health crisis that has led governments and companies to take exceptional measures to protect businesses, the lives of citizens and workers. The pandemic forced countless businesses to learn very hard lessons about how quickly things can change, regardless of how well they were growing previously. And below are some of the lessons that the firms have learned. One is embracing digitalization of business activities. Firms engaged in global value chain have learned to embrace digitalization of business activities. For instance, during the pandemic, firms used the digital revolution to automate certain functions and online platforms in areas of relevance for business development. The pandemic required business leaders to adjust more quickly than ever before and accelerate their digitalization plans to continue functioning. For instance, using Zoom for online platforms and Teams. The next lesson learned was identifying alternative potential suppliers. During COVID-19, companies engaged multiple suppliers for critical components or each of their inputs of their operations to ensure continuity of the business. Therefore, firms engaged in the global value chain would learn to work with more than one supplier, which added complexity to the supply chain, but it also provided protection against certain risks. We have another point, which is buffer or safety stocking. A buffer stock is an excess amount of raw materials kept on hand to guard against any unplanned inventory shortages leading into the production process. During COVID-19, pandemic companies ran out of stock. For example, the automotive companies like Toyota, and the supply chain was disrupted by the pandemic, which led to the delay to deliver customers' consignments. Jovan, please carry on.
Thank you, Patricia. During pandemic, firms learned how to be flexible and agile to remain effective in their business operations. For instance, firms embraced the e-commerce, e-conferencing to enable them to work in their remote areas. Therefore, firms that are involved in the global value supply chain, they can learn a lesson from what other firms used to do during the COVID-19 pandemic. The COVID-19 pandemic enabled countries to promote the use of local companies through international collaborations. For instance, Pfizer Inc., an American company, it collaborated with other pharmaceutical companies throughout the world to manufacture COVID-19 vaccines. And by doing so, those companies were equipped with technology which enabled them to start off. Therefore, firms that are involved in the global value chain, they can learn a lesson in collaborating with multinational companies throughout the world. COVID-19 enabled companies to be adaptable. Adaptability is the ability of business to adjust and respond to the changes brought about by dynamics external. Companies can learn a lesson from the COVID-19 pandemic to be adaptable to the market changes. For instance, when COVID-19 happened, companies started to make online sales. Companies started to do door-to-door deliveries. Therefore, the firms that are involved in the global value chain, they can learn a lesson and continue operating in that angle. COVID-19 led to the strong production network and risk management. Farms learned a lesson of ensuring their products, their consignments, and the movement of their goods from the manufacturers to the end users. I call upon my colleague Emma to continue from here.
Thank you, Jovan. I'm taking you through the strategies designed to implement the organization to mitigate the similar circumstances in the future. Therefore, I start with communication and collaboration. Communication and collaboration are the key fundamental things in the global supply chain that need to be taken upon. All companies must collaborate to mitigate such circumstances in certain places of crises like the pandemic, because it was unexpected. Therefore, suppliers and buyers, different companies have to share information on related information about the products that are available, the prices and what on, and have to collaborate on how to do business for continuity. Therefore, I take you to a next point where develop local manufacturing industries. Developing local manufacturing industries is the initiative for all countries around the globe to protect their own local companies, so as in case of any crisis, those companies can be able to supply such essential commodities. An example in that is, for example, Slico Company Limited, the manufacturer of sanitizer. That was the only company in East Africa that was manufacturing sanitizers, but when the coming of COVID-19, it helped it to manufacture more and get more orders. Therefore, the government also helped them financially to develop. Therefore, the development of local suppliers is key in mitigating such risks. Therefore, we go to building transparency and resilience. Without transparency in the global supply chain, you can't do much, because you need to be transparent in information sharing. Just in case there is a crisis, you have to be transparent in how you operate your businesses, and so many things around the globe. So if you are not transparent, I'm sure you cannot do business as it is. You have to be investigating inventories for critical inputs, have to be transparent the way you move your things from one place to another, and the transactions, you must be transparent. Therefore, firms and companies have to be transparent and resilient in order to mitigate the future crises that may happen. The second thing is diversification and reshoring. Diversification in a layman's language, it simply means becoming more diverse in the process of enhancing the businesses. Companies benefited from just operating within the local place to geographically expand their businesses the way they're doing things. For example, most automotive companies shifted from manufacturing cars to manufacturing ventilators in the COVID-19 pandemic crisis. Therefore, they expanded they were diverse in the process. Like, they stopped manufacturing cars to manufacturing ventilators to save life. Therefore, that was also a strategy they came up with. The second point is, the last point is building transparent diversification. Therefore, I call upon my colleague, Mariam, to take up on the other points.
Thank you so much, Emma. I'm also taking you through the strategies to overcome the incident of COVID-19 pandemic. How businesses overcome, what are strategies did business brought down or brought up to see how the business can run in the day-to-day life. So they came up with, like, they built a strategic relationship between buyers and sellers. A key benefit of collaborative buyer-seller relationship is the opportunity for increased efficiency as both parties come to understand the other businesses' needs and how they work. Virtually overnight, the pandemic created a credible pressure for businesses to diversify not only their services and products, but reconsider their power and relationship within the supply chain. Large companies that consider significant businesses and their smaller vendors and then returned assuming immediate capacity have been surprised that their place in line has been taken by the others. Here we are seeing when there is a great collaborative relationship with the buyer and the seller, in case of any something like when you have gone shortage of some of raw materials or materials to use in your business, since there is that relationship with you and the buyer or a seller, there is that mutual understanding because of the daily communication you put in your business. Another strategy is reducing the time needed for production to reach pre-crisis levels. Maintain an open trade and investment is critical while also addressing the requests for firms that need specific and time-limited support to recover. For customers who prefer shopping from home during the pandemic, as immediate measure, firms could provide omni-channel options by partnering with third-party delivery agents who could provide localized deliveries to customers. Here we are seeing that the pandemic brought things easy. For instance, those people who are not who liked more of shopping, they could do deliver through the third-party agents. Like at your doorstep, someone could deliver what you really requested for without any movement. Another strategy is adapting agility or creativity as a way of strategy to mitigate the risks. This can be described as the ability of firms to sense and respond to changes in organizations' internal and external by quickly assembling resources, relationships, and capability. This requires processes and management structures that allow for a shift of alternatives. The focus on local supply chains is likely to continue in the future, as well as greater agility. Using local suppliers means businesses have better oversight of their suppliers, working and employment practices, making risk management easier. For adapting agility, as we all know, agility is more of being quick to respond to a customer's need or someone's need. So we are seeing here, since pandemic, it was really a shock to many businesses. Many businesses come up with different ideas on how to respond quickly to people's needs. Because and in that scenario, there was a need to respond to people's health. Many businesses come up with different ideas with how to rescue people's lives. Another strategy or another way of mitigating the pandemic, COVID-19, it was innovation. As the global trend rebounded from the initial effects of the pandemic, new challenges arose with regard to global value chains. In 2021, value chains were poorly positioned to meet the sudden increase in demand because below average level of investment and because operations continue to face supply-related and logistic disruption. In this point of innovation. Without innovation and creativity, a business can't do what? Can't run. Because here we see like all those challenges. Once there's no innovation and creativity, you cannot know what to do. But during this pandemic, many businesses brought up new ideas through technology, through use of the new technology on how to overcome, on how to bring out and to see how to meet and decrease on this pandemic, and see how people can be really effective, like to get rid of that pandemic stroke COVID-19. Let me call upon my colleague, Jacinta, to overtake.
Thank you so much, Maria. I'm called Jacinta Asio. I'm continuing on the strategies. There is regional integration through enhancing infrastructure. This helps countries to overcome divisions that impede the flow of goods, services, capital, people, and ideas. Government policies can support firms involved in global value chains by providing supporting environment and lowering costs on diversification, substitutability through reduction in international trade costs. Trade costs include the whole range of expenses that a firm can use to transport goods or services from where they are produced to where they are consumed. Other important costs related to value chains are coordination costs, as geographical dispersed activities have to be managed in a consistent way. The government can also support in modernizing and upgrading infrastructures on key shipping routes to help reduce global choke points. The other point is revisit your crisis and continuity plans. All organizations have a business continuity plan. This is a document that consists of critical information an organization needs to continue operating during an unplanned event. It states the essential functions of a business, identifies which systems and processes that must be sustained, and also to maintain them. This should consider any possible business disruption. This helps the organization to understand potential vulnerabilities and weaknesses to an organization in times of crisis. The creation of a business continuity program, the company leaders can react. It helps company leaders to react quickly and efficiently to any business interruption. There is research and development. This includes activities that companies undertake to innovate and introduce new products and services, or to improve the existing ones. The strategy allows the company to stay ahead of its competition and new ones or needs, a new consumer needs or wants in a market. This is done usually by pharmaceutical industry, semiconductors, and technology, and involves researching your market and your customer needs and developing new and improved products and customer needs. In conclusion, the COVID-19 pandemic accelerated pre-existing issues in the supply chain and brought prior visibility, resilience, and digitization to the fore. While some sectors were hit by disruption, there were some, but across the board, protecting, restraining, and reskilling the workforce is a major priority, investing to make the autonomous supply chain a reality. Finally, the new normal should be understood not only as a period where the virus is no longer a threat to its activities, and that activity should have largely resumed, but also as a period where governments and firms should prepare for the next crisis, may be very different from the pandemic, and have time to take the necessary steps to be better prepared. Most of them at firm level, but governments have an important role to give incentives to firms to integrate risk awareness, and develop risk management and resilience strategies. Then the references are here: Building Effective Value Chains by Kogan Page, first edition, Building Supply Chain Excellence in Emerging Economies, research papers, Center for Policy Research, London. Thank you so much. This is our presentation. This is the end.